Hi, happy Pride, and welcome to We Read It One Night, the podcast where we talk about chaotic gays, Goodreads, and how orgasms were used in historical medicine. We also talk about romance novels, like this week's pick, Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall, a fake dating, opposites attract, dung beetle extravaganza. I'm joined by my friend Jenna, and we have a blast talking about this book that I think is kind of like the gay Bridget Jones. If you like this episode, let us know with a rating and review while you're listening, and don't forget to stop by our Etsy shop, which is linked in the description. Enjoy the show. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I'm joined. First of all, happy Pride Month, because that's when this episode is coming out. Happy beginning of Pride. The gays are in their prime. And today I am joined by my friend Jenna to talk about Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. Jenna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Jenna. I don't have a prepared bio, I would say, but so
You also work in nonprofit.
I do work at a nonprofit.
You are very similar, and you do event stuff, don't you? So you are actually, I didn't even realize that until literally like just now.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize that when I picked this book for you. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Dang, Jenna,
Yeah. There were
you
some
are
scenes
our main
where I
character.
relate.
Did you feel seen by that?
Um, it's not really my role to like talk to donors all that much. So
Yeah.
me and Luke have different priorities, I would say.
Yes.
My priority is like making sure, well, his priority is also to make the event run smoothly, but that's where my focus has been.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have like, you're a little bit higher up the ladder than Luke. Like you got people reporting to you.
That's true. That's true. I'm a manager, but I feel there's only like four people who work at his.
Yeah.
I don't really know
Yes,
how big of a
that's
ladder there
true. That's true.
is. Yeah. Yeah.
So listeners, our main character is Lucian, which I didn't hate as much as I normally would because I do hate the French language. And usually when the French language appears in any shape or form, I don't like it. But I did not mind Luke or his French mom. I actually really enjoyed the French accent that the
Love the
narrator
mom.
did
Yeah.
on the audiobook. But Lucian works at a dung beetle charity. I forgot the word. That his soon to be boyfriend, Oliver, is a like criminal justice lawyer.
Yes. Barrister.
Yeah, it's like being a lawyer in like the UK like isn't as cool as being isn't as like high flying as being a lawyer in the US a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, there definitely seemed to be some shade that people were throwing around the whole lawyer thing. I guess people do that in the US too, though.
Yeah. Although
Barrister's a cool name, though.
it is, and they wear the stupid wigs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they did mention that at one point in the book,
Hmm.
right? Yeah. So I
Yeah,
think
he's like, "Do you like fucking in the wig or something?"
right. I forgot about that. Do all lawyers wear those wigs?
Yeah, when they're in court, the wigs and the robes in the UK. And like the judges, they're silly.
Do you know like the history of like why?
I think it's just because British people are silly.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think it's because they used to do that. Like it probably like I feel like the concept of a lawyer is like a relatively modern invention. Like probably
Mhm.
in like the 1700s was when when like people started getting the right to vote and shit, like I feel like
Yeah.
that all coincided and they were wearing powdered wigs then and like fancy robes and they were like, we're just gonna keep it for some reason.
I mean, I'm very pro. I feel like that would really lighten the mood in the courtroom.
Oh,
So
really? Like, Your Honor, my client did not commit murder. Ha 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 ha.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. Certainly if I was in the audience, I would be entertained
I
by
would
the
be laughing.
yeah.
I could never take movies like British court movies, like, like legal dramas or anything
Mhm.
seriously because like there's like a movie about like the IRA and there's a court proceeding regarding like people in the IRA. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, this is a very serious topic,
Right. You guys are,
but you
yeah,
all look
costume.
so
Yeah,
silly.
right. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
was like, no wonder, like, can you really blame the IRA? Like, they don't want to be ruled by that silliness. Like, they're like, we would like to distance ourselves.
I wish I could say I knew more about history like in general. It's one of my flaws.
Yeah. If you want to learn more about the IRA in particular, I recommend the book Say Nothing. It's
Okay.
about like the Troubles, which was like the
Yeah.
yeah. I didn't know. I
I've
didn't want to
heard of Trouble.
assume
I
the
know Dairy Girl takes
Troubles.
place during the
Yes,
Trouble.
yes, at the end of the Troubles, it does. Yes, Say Nothing's like about the IRA, but also it's like kind of like there's a murder mystery like element throughout.
I
And
feel
there's
like
like
I've
a
heard of
plot
that.
twist.
I think it might be on my list.
It was like a popular book. Like it was like a many times New York Times bestseller
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend the audiobook because it is narrated by an Irish man, and that I think that really adds to the
Definitely.
experience.
Definitely. I love a good narrator.
Yeah.
I did both. I read this book both in book format and in listening format.
Really?
I
Any
switched.
particular reason? Oh, you switched halfway through.
Well, I flip-flopped. I went between the two.
Oh, interesting.
The reason is because I did not have enough time to read the amount of pages, but I did have enough time to listen to the amount of pages on
Fair
1.25.
enough. Yes. Yeah, I was going in at 2.25
My
because I
gosh.
was like, well, two times speed is like my standard. That's
That's
like my like
fast.
default. And I had it at 2.25 for like another book, and I can't remember why, but I also remember that I forgot to change it. So then I like glanced at the speed. I was like, oh, it's been at 2.25 this whole time. Okay, like it's fine. I've already read this book. Like if
Oh,
I'm
you have? Okay.
yeah, I read this book like a few years ago.
I'm impressed that you can even retain the information at that speed. Like for me, it's like when I went from 1.2 to 1.4, I was like, whoa, like we are
Oh, yeah. I
full
don't know.
steam
It's just
ahead.
I can't retain the information when
But it's
it's
slow.
slow.
That's
Like,
funny.
cause I just like wander. I'm like, okay, can we like get to the next
Well,
point?
you go from fast to slow. That definitely happened. You're like, oh my God,
Oh,
so slow now.
yeah.
It works in both ways, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like most people speed stuff up, but it's funny because like I have talked to people who are like if I listen to a book with a British accent, like this book has a British narrator, and they're like if they're an American, they're like if I listen to a book like narrated by a British person, like I have to slow it down because like I can't understand them as well. And I'm like, I can't imagine even less than one time speed. Ugh,
Yeah, that is rough. That is rough.
it's bonk. But I mean, I guess there are people who do need that for whatever reason.
That's true.
All audiobook listening is valid, listener.
Yes, all of it.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about before I started recording that Jenna, I saw that you gave, I don't know why, I saw that you gave this book 3 stars on Goodreads, and I don't like Goodreads is like always telling me specifically your reading progress. Like it's you and this other girl who I've never met in real life who's like a friend of a friend. And like that's the only person, like every time I open Goodreads, it's like, guess what they're doing?
Well, do you have a lot of friends on Goodreads? Like, do you think it's just because only us?
How many do I have? I don't think I have very many. Let's see. I have 16 friends.
Oh,
But still, like it's just the two of you. And I have a lot of other friends that
who
read.
read and like are active on the platform though?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. If I see you, I will like it.
Yeah.
But my feed does get clogged with people that I don't care so much about their reading progress. But I have 83 friends.
Wow. Look at
And I'm
you.
following seven, and I don't know who those people are.
Oh.
People who just didn't friend me back from me back.
Oh no. I had a Goodreads account in like middle school.
Yeah, I
I
think I
don't
did.
remember what it was. But I was like big on
Oh, a
Goodreads.
different one, like a
No. Yeah, like a different like I had to make a new Goodreads account for this because I simply I didn't even remember what email I used.
uh,
Like I was like, I don't know what this account is. I don't even know if it's like still exists. But I was like big on Goodreads.
I had a following, okay?
I had a following. It was Goodreads and Yahoo Answers. I had a following on both of those.
Do you remember? Was it? It must not have been. Was it like Ask G or like it was like the one where it was like
Ask Jeeves.
I don't know. It was like the site you go into, and it was like this like ooh mystical like whatever, and you put a question like it can answer anything like
Yeah,
my
it
favorite
was.
color, and like it somehow would like know. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? I don't think it was Jeeves.
Yes. Are you sure? Jeeves, Ask Jeeves like is a thing.
It is a thing. It could be
Yes.
that, but I it's like I have
Now
it
it's
like
ask.com. They got rid of Jeeves.
I feel like it was more like fortune tellery, like more magic eight ball vibe.
Mm, yeah, I have a vague memory of that.
Yeah.
That was like I feel like that was around like you know how when like iPhones and like smartphones like kind of first started taking off and so like apps first started like being a thing and like the apps that were all the rage were like the lighter app
Yes.
that like just
Yes.
was a picture of a lighter or
Yes.
like you know like all this like it we were really entertained by like
Yes.
this bare minimum.
I was just talking about this with someone. Like there was the app that was like this is pre-flashlight, I guess. So like the screen would just be
Yeah.
white,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
full brightness, white.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were some good apps back in the day. Some really real classics, yeah.
So Jenna, why did you give this book 3 stars on Goodreads?
So I will say a couple of things. One, I think this is maybe my first romance novel.
You've read Emily Henry.
That's okay. So you would call her romance. I thought that we had a conversation and you said it was
She's
like
like a
not
cusp, but I would say like she does lean over into the edge, like as into romance.
yeah.
Like she's a cusp between romance and women's fiction, but like she has crossover potential, but like she does do it's like romance. Like I think she considers herself a romance author.
Okay. I could see that. I mean, honestly, I guess I don't know how you would define a romance novel, but like I feel like oh, go ahead. Please define it.
Okay, so there's actually a very simple definition. And you only need two things. And the first is that it like a romantic relationship is like a central part of the story.
Mhm.
And that it has an quote emotionally satisfying and optimistic ending, otherwise known as like a happily ever after,
HEA.
or yeah, or a happy for now, like in the case of like multi-book series with the same couple or like YA romance is usually only happy for now because like you're like they're not going to get married but like they're happy at the end of the book.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Okay. So basically, it's a positive ending regarding the central relationship. The relationship is
Yes.
central to the
Like
plot.
nobody can die and they can't break up at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it's not the first romance novel I've read, but I feel like I've read, yeah, I feel like the Emily Henry books are that.
Yeah.
They're always revolving around a like romantic
Yeah.
relationship. And so far, I think they've all had happy endings in some way or another. Okay, so then I retract my prior statement. My the other thing I was going to say is that I'm a very harsh Goodreads rater.
I did notice that. I went to go see like what your other I was like curious. I was like, well, because you know, like for some like people, like 3 stars is like, yeah, like,
Like
you know,
neutral. Yeah. Or
cool.
like decent. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to retract my statement again. I don't think I'm a harsh Goodreads reader. I think I am a fair and true to myself Goodreads reader.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
a 5, it's like I loved this book. Like this book
Same.
was really good. Like I really wanted to read it. Like I just had like a good time. I'm enjoying
Yeah.
it. A 4 is like I really liked this book. It didn't blow me away like a 5, but like
Yeah. very
very solid, very good into it.
Mm-hmm.
A 3 is like I feel like most books I read are 3s. It's just kind of like my
Yeah.
neutral, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I had a fine time. It was decent. Like
I
it
didn't
wasn't
hate
bad. It wasn't
myself the whole
good. Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think 3 is like good. Good, not
Yeah.
great. I try not to finish ones and twos, but it is hard to not finish a book.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm in a book club and everyone tells me that I'm a very harsh reader. which is offensive, obviously.
Well, there is. I mean, it is like if I see on Goodreads like that a book only has like 3.1 stars, like in the actual, like if you actually think about the rating system logically, like that's like not a bad score. But
No, it's
like
like average
when
book,
you
right?
actually when you're like, oh, 3 stars, like what?
True. It's true. I like to read books that are like four and up.
Yeah.
But then there's also skewing, right? Like people who like love a certain author, love a certain genre are just going to be like
Right.
five, five, you know?
Right. If it's like a super popular book, like at that
Yeah.
point you're just like, I can't really trust it.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'll look at the negative reviews
Me
to like
too.
see like what people didn't like
Me
and is
too.
it something that I'm not gonna like.
Right. Me too. I do like to read people's reviews right after I finish a book, and sometimes it does skew my rating a little bit.
Sometimes
I'm like,
I'm
oh,
like, this was such a great book, and then I'll go read it and I'll be like, oh,
oh, I
that's a
actually didn't like it.
good point.
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
Actually.
But anyway, yes, I gave it a 3. So like that's not a bad rating in my book. And
Yeah.
my in my
In your
Goodreads,
book, but
my book. Yeah, I thought it was, totally fine. That is,
fair enough. Fair enough. I really like the writing style of this, like the voice of this book.
Mhm.
I thought it was really funny. I thought it was very British, which makes sense because Alexis Hall is British. It gave me very like Bridget Jones like tone vibes,
Okay.
which like I don't know if have you seen the movie? Like I don't know if you read the book, but okay. Well, I highly recommend the Bridget Jones movie because it's a delightful rom-com.
Okay, no, I haven't seen Bridget. And yeah, I liked the voice. I felt like it came in really hot, like it came in really strong in the beginning. Like it felt like very like hip, but also like complicated and kind of like wordy.
Mm,
But I feel like that kind of like decreased over time, or I got more used to it and it felt more like accessible.
yeah.
Also I think listening to it may have been better for that. I think that
Hmm.
reading that might be harder. And also hearing it in the accent is really,
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the thing, because there's like certain phrasing that like sounds silly in your American accent in your head, but like in a British accent it sounds normal. Yeah, and the tone is like very conversational, I feel like in a lot of like there are definitely parts when yeah, it was like fully like verbal, like the way it was written.
yeah.
But I did get very, yeah, just like overall I got very like British, like 90s rom-com. Like like Four Weddings and a Funeral and like Notting Hill. Like basically if Hugh Grant was in it in the 90s,
Mhm.
then it gave me that vibe. Like Luke's dad, who's like a famous like 80s rock star or whatever. I was picturing Bill Nye from Love Actually.
No, I've only seen Love Actually once, but I have been thinking about Bill Nye the Science Guy recently.
They are different people.
Just stay
It
tuned.
is a different person.
Unfortunately. Okay.
The Bill Nye from Love Actually was also in, I'm trying to think of like he was in, oh, he plays Davy Jones in Pirates of the Caribbean.
I have
The
not seen that movie.
octopus.
I have not.
Okay.
I've not seen
Harry
most of
Potter.
Harry Potter. I've seen Harry Potter.
Harry Potter 7 part 1, he plays the Minister of Magic.
I don't remember that.
Okay. He
You know?
wasn't on screen for very long, so fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know most movie and actor references. Same with history, both of those things.
But yeah, the book just had a very like quirky cast of like side characters, which I feel like is very reminiscent of that. Like the friends, the mom,
Yeah, yeah,
the coworkers.
yeah, yeah. Their joke thing was funny, I thought. The with like Alex, his coworker.
Oh yeah, yeah. Who he keeps like telling him jokes, and Alex is like, I don't get it.
Yeah. Like,
What?
wouldn't
What
be
do you
able to understand
mean?
that ever. Yeah. That's true. And yeah, I liked the friends. I liked Luke's friends. I guess we did meet Oliver's friends.
Yeah, there's like one birthday dinner. Yeah, and what is it? So they like know each other through their friend Bridget, who's
Right,
like the token straight friend of Luke's friend group.
right.
And Bridget is dating Tom,
Yes.
who Luc dated, like
Yes.
went on a few dates with. And I remember the first time I read this, I despised Bridget. I
Really?
was like, this bitch breaking. And I think I just completely ignored or missed the part where it was like they only went on a few dates. Like in my head, it was like they were dating
Yeah.
and then he met her and like broke up with him. And I was like, she is breaking the friendship. Like, what the hell?
Friendship code.
Like, I think there's a minor plot line in the second book where she thinks Tom is like cheating on her. And I was like, good. I mean, he's actually planning like a proposal, but like, like I was like, serves you right, Bridget. But like, no, like I take back what I said, what I muttered to myself about Bridget as I was moving out of my apartment because that's when I was listening to this.
I didn't realize that there was a sequel.
There is. I'm pretty sure there's a third book coming out or maybe is already out. I didn't finish the sequel because and it kind of pops up in this book. And I'm curious to hear what you thought about this kind of like through line. And like there's this like conversation they have where Oliver like doesn't have any gay friends. Like all his friends are straight, and Luc is like, that's so weird. Like, blah 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 blah. And Oliver just is basically just like, I like, the whole like queer culture TM is like not for me of like the like, extravagant, that kind of
Okay.
loud and bright.
Okay.
And but that becomes more of a plot line in the second book. And it essentially gets to the point where like Luc is like, the reason you don't like that is because like you have some internalized homophobia.
Okay.
And the narrative basically like agrees with Luc. And I don't know. It made me maybe because like I'm more like Oliver, where like I don't like loud parties and like bright, like that kind of stuff that like Luc seems to think like is queer culture. But that the reason I DNF'd the second book was because I was like, why are we wait, like it's not, I was like, listen, I definitely do have internalized homophobia, but that doesn't mean that's the reason I don't like that.
Right. That's just like more of a personality trait inherent. I don't feel like the book left off at a place where it's like, oh, there's like a cliffhanger or like, oh, this could obviously
Mm-mm.
need to continue. It's more just like, let's just run with the same characters, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was because this was really popular. Like this, it sold a lot, so they were like, write a second book.
Yeah. Yeah,
And Alexis Hall was like, okay,
yeah. Sure.
sounds great. I'll take the check.
The thing about the friends that I thought was very funny and like, what the fuck was that the James Royces? Like, what?
That gag was incredible.
What's going on? I literally wrote the Royces. They have the same name. Are you
They
joking?
had the exact same name. James Joyce Forces. And the book never clarifies
Who too?
who is who. They're not
Oh,
like,
I
oh, the
know.
blonde James Royce Royce
No,
and like the brunette
no,
James Royce Royce.
no.
They're just like,
Same
and then
person.
James Royce Royce said that because
Yep.
of course he did. And then like
Right.
another James, and it's like, okay.
I do like that part. I'm like, I don't want to have to keep track of like which one is saying which things. Like,
Yeah.
lump them
It's
into
like,
one
what?
person.
It doesn't matter.
It does.
The gag, that's all they're there for. They're there for the gag. The gag is hilarious, frankly.
Ridiculous.
It's like when Taylor Swift and Taylor Lautner were dating and everyone was like, they're gonna both be Taylor Lautner. Ha, 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 ha.
Right. Well, what was it in this case? It was James Royce and James Royce, right?
Yes,
And
they
then they
had the
hyphenated.
same full name.
They
Yeah. So
hyphenated
they were
it.
James Royce Royce,
Like, well, I don't
both
want to
of
give up my
them.
name.
I mean, you know what? Actually, no. I was gonna say like maybe it's like a legal like thing where like they don't want to get confused, but then I was like, no, because they still have the same name. They just hyphenate.
Yeah, they
Maybe
hyphenated it.
is it spelled the same?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
An excellent gag. An excellent gag, truly.
I feel like most of my comments are like, I can't believe that this is what happened.
What are some of the things you couldn't believe happened?
I couldn't believe that Oliver ate a bacon sandwich. As a vegetarian, as a lifelong vegetarian.
You know what's the most unrealistic part of that is that he doesn't like have the shits afterward.
Sure.
Because like you don't not eat meat for a long time and then suddenly eat a lot of meat again and not have the shits.
True. Or at least a stomach ache. Yeah.
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 Unrealistic. The most
Unrealistic.
unrealistic part of this book.
Yeah, so like that seemed unrealistic and unlikely to me. I thought that I kind of thought the premise was like a little hard to um buy,
hmm
where it was like, oh, you need like your boss is telling you that you need to get a fake boyfriend because of your
Yeah.
donor.
Well, his boss didn't tell him to get a fake boyfriend. One of his colleagues, she said you need to clean up your reputation. And then his silly little colleague, posh
Alex.
colleague Alex, who I am obsessed with, was like, "What if you got a fake boyfriend?"
But I feel like she's like, oh, that would be a great idea. Like in their little
I
three
yeah, or
day conversation.
something. Yeah, possibly. It was a little bit of a stretch because yeah, so like we said, like Luke's dad is like a famous is like a, he's like a Mick Jagger type, I feel like,
Yeah, sure.
and then his mom was also like a, you know, let's say Sydney Lauper or like Stevie Nicks, something like like an 80s rock
You're really
star.
that famous. Okay.
I have to assume that they are that famous because otherwise I don't know why the press would care what Luke was
Yeah.
doing. Because that's the whole thing is that the press is like
Yeah.
the
They're
press like
fixated on
Luke like trips on the way home from a party and the press is like he's in the gutter, drug-addled state or
yeah.
whatever. And so he has to like rehab his reputation so that the dung beetle they can save the dung beetles. Uh
Yes.
but I can only like I don't know why else they would care. You know what I mean? Like
Yes. No, I was thinking about that too. It's like, what level of fame would his parents have to have for them to fixate on like the child who's like not famous at all? But I
yeah.
feel like honestly, depending on the tabloid, it could be like a pretty low level of fame.
Yeah. It's also the UK. And
Yeah.
I mean, there's like a lot smaller of a pool of like quote unquote
Yeah.
famous people.
Yeah.
And like there's also the fact that like there's a lot more I feel like there's a lot more like famous for being famous or like
Mhm.
famous for like who you know in the UK because like their socials like class system is so wonky because like Alex's girlfriend slash maybe fiance, they're not sure, um,
Right,
is
yeah.
also like super like they go to the club together so that like Luke and Oliver can be photographed.
Yeah.
And but because the photographers like come for her and like she's just
Yeah.
like the daughter of an earl, like she's just like famous because of who her papa is.
Right. Right. So I guess it's not like shocking in that way or
I
inconsistent in
like
that.
I yeah, I guess I think we just don't have like the context for it. And
Yeah.
there was also like the scene in the club when Luke like freaks out, like he like yells at Alex and Oliver and Miffy. Is that her name? Miffy? Am I remembering that?
Yeah, it's like,
Alex's girlfriend.
yeah.
They're like having a conversation, which he calls like middle class. And I was like, these people are not middle class. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Um, but he like feels left out. He's like, oh, like, they're all talking about what boarding schools they went to and like blah, 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 blah. And I don't know, I just felt like the whole time, like in that scene in particular, but like the whole book, like Luke was like operating under this like delusion that he was like not also in the same social sphere as that. Like he
Yeah.
like grew up super rich and like I don't know. I was just like, why wouldn't he? Like, where did he go to school if he didn't go to board? You telling me he didn't go to like private school?
Well, I was kind of confused about that. I was like, does Luke have wealth? Because it's not that wealthy people wouldn't work at a nonprofit, but not a nonprofit that you're not passionate about. Like that seemed like odd to me.
Well, it was because, and this was like, there was a lot of build up to this, and I feel like it didn't, they just kind of forgot about it after like it was finally revealed. But it was because he said he has an MBA and he worked at like a big high flying marketing firm. And then his ex dick boyfriend, Miles, like sold all their secrets for $50,000, which is
Oh,
like
right.
insane to the press and like basically made him seem like crazy and unhinged and like all this. So he like lost his job and like lost everything. And like that's why he's working at the nonprofit because like he can't get a job anywhere else.
Okay. But like he needs a job.
I mean, I think it's because like he's like I don't want to accept the money from my parents because his mom is like she it seems like like she's not releasing music now, but like she like lives off the royalties, which is
Yeah.
like definitely like a rich thing.
Yeah. Right. I feel like it was weird too how she was like fine to like reconnect with his dad and like make a new song album like so quickly.
I guess because she was like more money. I don't give a fuck.
I guess, but she seemed cool in other ways. Like she didn't seem like that was like her primary driver. You know what I mean? In like a
Yeah.
another,
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, because like yeah, Luke's father sucks and he's like thinks he has cancer and then like tries to quote unquote reconnect and then like doesn't.
I was so pissed about his dad not having cancer. I was like, I mean, not because I want his dad to have cancer, but like
I kind of yeah.
you're like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, his dad isn't sick. So dumb. That was my thought.
That's you know.
There's actually a lot of ones that just start with like, this is dumb. That was dumb.
Yeah. I feel like it was like validating in a way because like he spends the whole book like he's like I'm gonna die so I should reconnect with my son who I abandoned at the age of 3 and then but like he's still like an asshole the whole time.
I know. He didn't make like any effort.
Yeah, no. So you spend the whole book being like this guy's a fucking dick. Like I don't want him to get
Like, why are you
any
even here?
grace.
Right.
And then he doesn't have cancer and you're like, "Okay, fuck you." Like
I just felt like I'm angry the whole time, I guess. But like, why was it even part? Like, I don't know. Like, why do you think it was part of the plot? Like, I feel like one thing was that it created like a tricky family situation for Luke and his like own family, but then he was able to like
mhm.
stand up to Oliver's family. So we had that kind of like parallel
Yeah.
path. Like, I feel like maybe it was just like a device.
Yeah. Well, because Luke has severe daddy issues. And so I think like part of being able to be in a good relation, being able to like us believing that he can now be in a healthy relationship, despite the fact that
Yeah.
he hasn't gone to therapy and it really shows, um, is like him sort of like coming to terms and like finding peace with his like daddy issues.
Yes, I think that's theoretically yes. But that's like not really what happens because like his dad's in the driver's seat the entire time. Like his dad's like,
Mm.
I'm back in your life, like I'm sick, like let's connect. And then Luke's
Hmm.
like, I guess, and like, obviously has hesitations about it and whatever. And then like his dad's also the one who decides to like back out again. Like Luke doesn't have any like closure with that or anything. Like I feel like he didn't actually have a point where he was like, oh yeah, like me and my dad, like we're really bonding. Like I'm actually into this. I feel like he was skeptical of it the whole time. He never even like told Luke when he was backing out. He only like communicated through his mom.
Yeah, through the mom.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
Maybe it's like a closure thing insofar as like his dad walked out when he was 3, hasn't really been in his life since, has now come back into his life, and he can be like, yeah, I didn't miss out on anything. Like this guy was a dick, and like I'm probably better off that he
Yeah.
wasn't in my life, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. That was kind of
I don't know.
but like that was, I don't know, that wasn't the explicit conclusion, I feel like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I could see it as
Yeah.
the Oliver situation. Like he got
Yeah, it
his
was
like, he was able to like express himself there, even though he wasn't with his dad. But
yeah. Yeah, I mean thinking about it, I feel like you could like cut out the dad part.
yeah, I just didn't know. Yeah, it wasn't clear to me why that was in the plot. But
Yeah, I don't know. I did like that you brought it up that they both kind of have scenes where like they stick it to the other's parents or like parent.
Oliver does that with his mom.
Oliver does it with his dad. Like Oliver meets his dad like once and like calls him on
Oh,
his bullshit immediately. Like he
uh,
doesn't call him out the way that Luke calls out Oliver's shitty parents, but he
yeah.
is like his dad like says some waffle and then Oliver is like that sounds fake, but okay. Like
hmm
basically.
hmm Right, got it. Right, so like they had like their growth moments because
Yeah.
of each other in that way, like because of each other's families. But
Yeah. I do love those scenes, those types of scenes when like significant other calls asshole family assholes.
right. I was probably thinking that Luke's mom and Judy were gonna be gay together.
That's what I hoped, but unfortunately, they're just best friends. Well, they make that joke at the beginning. Like
I
they make the
know.
joke throughout where he's like, "Mom, are you coming out to me?" Like she's like, "No, Judy and I are just friends." I was like, "But why?"
I thought it was gonna come back and be like, just kidding.
We've
Like,
realized our love for each other.
or like we've been, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. No, no, Judy.
Oh,
And what's his mom? I can't remember his mom's name.
probably something French. That would fit, right?
Eponine something. I don't know. The only French names I know are from Les Mis. That's pretty much it.
I said it seems like Luke is getting fuck all from the meetups with his dad.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. It's just kind of like, yeah, there to
Yeah,
do the plot. Like the important thing about Luke's dad is that people keep exploiting him because of his
right.
dad.
The
Like
thing.
that guy at the beginning, like he's like flirting with that guy at the beginning, and that guy gets like all offended that Luke would think that. And then he no, but then he goes and he writes a fucking article. I was like, you shithead.
I really did not like him. Like that was like the one, I think that was like the first chapter, like the second chapter in the
Yeah,
book.
that was like the intro to
Yeah. And I
Luke.
was like, this conversation, like it didn't feel rational, like their conversation. Like I felt like he was calling Luke out or like seeing these like red flags and like telling him about them when I was like, wait, what? Like, how did we get here? Like, that wasn't even
Yeah.
didn't happen in that way. Like, that's not
Yeah.
you're misinterpreting, I thought.
Yeah. I think it's yeah, it's just supposed to be like show how much of a mess Luke is and also like how low his self-confidence is. That cuz like, you know what I mean? Cuz there is probably an extent to which he's like I don't know, the way he's interpreting, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just I didn't like him. I thought that Luke was being a reasonable person in those interactions. Like I didn't think that he was
Yeah.
doing anything too crazy from what I recall. And then I guess later on he was like the reason for them like breaking up at one point.
Yeah, briefly.
Well, I know they broke up like multiple times. So I guess one time Luke broke up with him and then Oliver broke up
The
with him.
fake breakup and then like the real breakup.
Wait, which one was the fake one?
The first one, when Luke breaks up with him, because they get back together within like 3 hours.
Well, I was gonna say I was actually really glad they weren't broken up for very long because I was like, this was like when it was still all fake, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And so like at that point I was like, oh, there's still like 5 hours left in this audiobook. Like what more could like possibly happen?
Yeah.
But I was glad that it didn't like drag on for too long, with like the won't they?
Hmm.
But I did think, I guess for both of them, like in during both of the breakups, I felt like it was just like, I guess like short-sighted of them and like,
In what way? Like of the person doing the breaking up?
yeah, like they clearly had a good thing going. It was like clearly not fake. Like they had certainly with like the Oliver one, like they had a conversation
Hmm.
about it being real and they're like together that night. And
Yeah.
then the next morning he's like,
That is something that I struggle with in like fake dating books is when it's like been very clearly established that like it is now real.
yeah.
And then they're like, no, it always had an expiration date. Cause like
Like,
I
it
was
doesn't.
like,
It doesn't.
like pick one. You know what I mean? Like either it's fake and then they're like, oh, actually we want to stay together. And then
Right.
they break up for a different reason. Cause like I like third act breakups. Like I don't mind that. Like I know some people are like tired of them, but like I think they do the job. But yeah, like I really don't. It's like one of those thing choices, like writing choices that I don't like in fake dating books where I'm like, you've had multiple conversations at this point that you both have feelings for
Yeah.
each other.
It's
In
mutual.
any other circumstance, you would be in a relationship.
Yeah. I feel like they're just like everything's fine, and then they're like challenging it just based on like principle or just like yeah,
Yeah.
just like the original concept of what your relationship was, which is
Yeah.
clearly changed and like verbally changed.
And I think the breakup with Oliver would have had more of an impact if we had Oliver's POV because like I did think it was like interesting that it was like Oliver who had the freak out and then like, did the like for real breakup and like whatever and ran away because like he's the quote unquote like steady one. And we get like a little bit of a hint at like why his relationships haven't worked out, like why he might freak out like
Mhm.
at it suddenly being serious with Luke, but like we don't really have the full context of it because the whole book is in Luke's POV. So I feel like it didn't like land. I wasn't like, oh, I completely understand why Oliver's doing it, even if it's like irrational. I was like, oh, okay, that
It never quite
happened.
made sense. Yeah. And then he was also so surprised, like when Luke like came to his door and they were like, like when Luke went to Durham and all that.
Hmm.
Like then Oliver was all surprised or like not understanding of why Luke would have done that
Yeah.
or like why he would have cared that Oliver was leaving. It's like what you broke up like you broke up, which means that there was something to break up. So like clearly
Yeah.
there's like feelings involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like of course he's gonna care. And he also
Yeah.
protested when you left, like big time. So,
Yeah.
like why would you be so shocked?
Yeah. Surprised Pikachu face. Oliver. What?
Yeah, I can't believe this.
I can't believe you've done this. That's Luke. Oh, I can't believe you done this. I did like also just like some of the little things that I liked. I liked that their dick pic joke. I thought that was
I like that.
excellent. That was an excellent gag. That was an excellent running gag. Which it was just that they sent pictures of like various Richards to each other. And like those were dick pics. Ha 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 ha. That's what listener, if any of you ever come across me on a dating app and you are a person with a penis, I don't want a regular dick pic. I want a Richard pic.
A literal dick pic.
I want an actual dick pic, please.
A pic of dick.
Dick Cheney.
Danny was made an appearance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then also Oliver's like nervous texting, like, and the
Oh
fact that
yeah,
he's
yeah,
like in
yeah.
real life, yes, like so I was like, honestly, like RIP Oliver, you would have loved being able to unsend text messages. Like, I bet that just makes his whole fucking life when that update comes around.
True. I did like that though. It's kind of like stream of consciousness-ish, like,
Yeah.
right?
And it shows like because Oliver's like so buttoned up and like
Right.
controlled in
Yeah.
real life, but then like over text,
Yeah.
he's like panicking.
No, I like that too. That felt very like real. He's like, and now you're gonna read it and just like don't please.
Why
Okay.
don't you just
Well,
not
I'm gonna
read
see
any
myself
of it?
out. Like, yeah. Yeah. No, I like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, those are two. There are a lot of like running gags.
Right.
Like a lot of running gags now that I think about it. Like there's the dick pics, there's like Oliver rambling, there's the jokes with Alex,
Right.
there's like the Reese Bowen, the like Welsh coworker, there's Barbara, the like
Barbara loved Barbara.
loved Barbara.
Loved Barbara. There's also
Barbara.
that name changing.
Yes, I did like all those puns. Those were delicious. Also, just speaking of Barbara's like listener. She's the like what the office manager at the nonprofit, and she
Yeah.
and Luke constantly send like passive aggressive like emails to each other. But then at the gala, she brings her husband, and
It's like Madonna.
he's like young Brad Pitt, like, and they're just like making out at the table. And I was like, good for you, Barbara. Like, I want Barbara's story. Where's Barbara's romance novel?
That was just like a quick mention too. Luke was like, yeah, and like Oliver didn't even like flinch at the or like hesitate when he saw that Barbara was like married to this golden blonde.
Yeah, it's Adonis.
Yeah.
And then Barbara stopped making out with her husband to answer me, or like whatever.
I didn't catch that part.
They
That's so
they're making out at one point
funny.
because he's like obsessed with her. I was like, this is incredible. This it's like did you watch Ted Lasso?
Yes, but not season 3.
Okay, I think this is just season 2. It's Sam and Rebecca.
Sam and Rebecca.
Sam, the soccer player, and Rebecca, the owner, the
Oh yeah.
blonde, and like it's like that
Yeah.
situation. I was
Mhm.
very pro that.
I feel like is it typical that like romance novels, I feel this one had a lot of like conversations
Hmm.
and like it was less like action, not like action, but like,
Yeah.
like happenings and more
Hmm.
kind of like, yeah, just conversational. Is that
More
pretty typical?
internal. Yeah, I would say romance novel because like the main plot is the relationship. So it is, and I mean, obviously like it depends. Like I would say like even like Emily Henry, that's what Emily Henry's books are. Like they're much more internal. Like
Yeah.
there isn't like a plot. But then
Mhm.
there are like, you know, romantic action romance novels that are like two spies and they also bone, like so yeah, it just depends on like the sub genre, but they are like yeah, mostly internal. I and think that's why a lot of people, I mean, this isn't the only reason why a lot of people look at like romance novels as like just being like quote unquote like porn without plot, like oh they're just like people fucking and like whatever. It's because like they don't have like it's a lot harder to be like and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened. Like it's a lot less of a like traditional plot and more of like an internal like journey.
Hmm. Yeah. I actually felt like it was not very porny at all.
Mm-mm.
Very, very light.
It's a very slow burn.
And like there's probably two like sexy scenes.
That like are partially fade to black.
They're
Like the kind of
completely
just
fade to
like
black. Yeah. I wanted more. I was like expecting, I was like, I want like
yeah.
more. I want more.
And I know that Alexis Hall can give more because I've read his other books. I've read his other books. Like he wrote this like historical that's like a trans woman and a duke. And that was way more explicit. I was like, so I know you know how to write it.
Yeah. Give it to us.
Give it to me. But the first time they fuck and Oliver like carries him up the stairs,
Uh-huh.
but then he like drops it.
Oh yeah.
I was like
Tough.
the gag. And also, I don't know whether I've told you this story or whether I've told it on the podcast before. I feel like no. But have a friend who was like she like, was like on like a third date with someone or whatever and like they like were getting high at her apartment and like they were also kind of drunk, they were like crossfaded. And they start to have sex and he like lifts her up, but like they overbalance. And so she like fell, like he dropped her and she like smacked her head on the coffee table.
Oh.
And then
Oh no.
it has a funny ending, but also like a what the fuck. Okay. So she's like lying on the floor. Like he's like, oh my God, are you okay? Like all that. And she's like lying on the floor. She's like, let me just like, like reset.
Yeah.
Like I'm a little high. Like I hit my head. Like I just need to sort of.
Yeah.
And then like all of a sudden, while she's lying on the floor, like recovering from this head injury, he starts going down on her. She's like, okay.
That's not what I meant by recovery, but okay.
And I know that she wouldn't mind me telling this story because she told me that story like at my when I left my job, we like went out for going away like happy hour
Mhm.
afterward. And she like came to that like with my coworkers. And like her introduction to my coworker, to my friends, was telling this because I like had seen her 2 days before and I was like, oh, like, how's your head? Like, do you still have a bump?
Right.
And someone was like, oh, are you okay? And then she was like, yeah. And instead of being like, oh, I hit my head,
Right. Right. Right.
full
She
story.
launches in.
And I was like, love it. You know what? It's a
Absolutely.
great story.
Good story. And she let it happen.
Yeah, she was just like, okay,
This is happening now.
this is happening.
And still lie here. So
Hey, sex can be a pain reliever.
yes,
Endorphins
we
are
can.
pain relief, so better than ibuprofen.
Yeah, it's natural. All natural pain. Yeah.
I just had a okay. I there are several steps to the final comment that I'm gonna say, but like you said, natural pain relief, and then I was like, oh, I can like one of those like modern like Gwyneth Paltrow types who are like their business model is just like organize orgasms for like pain relief or whatever. And then that reminded me of how convents, like Catholic convents,
Mhm.
particularly in like the Middle Ages, there was a lot of cunnilingus going on.
Okay.
But like we know what was going on because like it was considered like a medical treatment. Like the nut when they're
Oh,
stressed or like they need pain
my
relief, like they
God.
go in. And like apparently that was also a thing in the Victorian era. And like
Wow.
certain, like, if you're like a hysterical woman and you need treatment,
Yeah.
like one of the things was like, okay, we need to like get this out. And so it
Oh
was
my
like
God.
orgasms.
I love that.
I was like, bring it back.
Yeah, bring it
Bring
back.
it
We need that.
back.
We want this in hospitals everywhere.
This thing doesn't have 8,000 nerve endings for nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Make use of it. That's funny. And I feel like there's probably some fucked up ties in that.
Yeah.
Like almost certainly.
Oh, for sure.
But if done right, if
Excellent.
done properly, who would perform
Like like doctors. Well, in the convent, it was like the medical nun, because they're
the
all
medical
nuns.
nun? Does that
Like the
yeah,
nuns that work in the like,
yeah,
medicine room.
yeah, the
And
medical.
then yeah, and like the Victorian era was like doctors.
Does that mean that like in their medical training?
It was like a specialized, like it wasn't like a widespread
Oh, okay.
thing.
Got it.
But it was like there were people who were like advocating for it. And I was like,
Patients or
good,
doctors?
as you should. Do you have anything else?
My one other question
Okay.
is it typical? Like, I feel like in this story, it was like the HEA, as you
Hmm.
say, or as I read on your Instagram,
Yeah.
it's like 3 pages before the end of the book. Right?
Hmm.
That's when it like happens. Is that pretty typical? Or like, are there books where the kind of like the conclusion happy part lasts or lingers long?
No, I'd say usually the HEA is like last chapter
Yeah.
because
Okay.
the story is their relationship. And then like part
Yeah.
of the HEA is like obviously not they're gonna live for the rest of their lives and never fight and have a perfect relationship forever. It's like they have like established a strong enough foundation that like they're gonna be able to like work through, the problems or whatever. So like once you get to that point, it's just kind of like boring after it. Like the story is like them
Right.
getting
There's no like conflict anymore. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I mean, like sometimes, not sometimes, like a lot of the times, there'll be like an epilogue, you know, of them like in happy
Right.
domestic bliss, or like a cutesy, like they get engaged or like, them with kids like 20 years later, or like, like
Mhm.
something like one of those
Right.
things.
Right.
But Yeah, I would say like there's usually not a lot of
like
after.
extra after that. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting. Well, as a newbie to the genre, I had some romance structural questions.
Hmm. I appreciate you asking. Appreciate, you
Clarification.
really.
Yeah.
I didn't have like a lot to say. I feel like there was both very little that happened in this book, but also like a lot that you know what I mean?
I felt more like on the little side. But
Hmm.
I again, like we were talking about, like it's mostly because it was like not like they went to like two events or like an event or like
Yeah,
uh, like interactions like with other folk.
to like establish their fake relationship.
Hmm.
Yeah, that felt kind of, I don't know, just thinking about like the fake dating that like I feel like that plot point like really fell by the wayside by the end. Like the impetus for is that he needs to restore his reputation, but like
Right.
we don't really see that happening. We're just kind of told like, yeah, the donors came back, most of them.
Well, they showed up to the event anyway, too. He was like, "Oh, those people who said they weren't coming came." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, okay." Also, like, I don't know. I don't know how far-fetched, but like it seems a little far-fetched that the donors would care that much about. I mean, I guess if you like were giving a lot of money to an organization and you saw like an employee being like
I
off the rails, like I
guess
guess you would be like you'd have some
drunk
thought.
in a gutter, like on a coke binge, which is what everyone thinks.
But that's not the cause. Like that's the employee.
Yeah, but I guess like they're like, why are like that person's handling our money?
Yeah, totally. Totally. But they put a lot of weight on that, apparently.
Yeah.
But then they
And
didn't.
it's like a D-list celebrity person.
Yeah.
Like it's not, yeah.
But I guess the idea is like it could be anyone, right? Like in that for the donors, it's like whether or not it's a celebrity, it's the person who's
Yeah.
handling your stuff. And it just happens that like it's publicized for this guy.
Yeah. But they wouldn't know about it
Otherwise
if
they
he
wouldn't
wasn't
know.
like a D-list celebrity.
How do you feel like reading it the second time versus the first?
It was about the same. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. I personally like really like this kind of writing humor. Like I
Mhm.
really like the sort of like dry British humor. I feel like it's
Mhm.
like Neil Gaiman writes like this and like the who is it? Douglas Adams who wrote like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Like that sort of like
Yes.
quirky British writer voice.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and there was some line in it. I forget exactly what it was. It was something like flew like a brick doesn't or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, like levitated like a
Yeah.
brick does not or something like that. And I thought that was really
Yeah.
the way it was written.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just like kind of like absurd, like dry, like quippy. Yeah.
Yeah, like they like contrast and like things I wouldn't even like, yeah, think to
You're
link.
like, okay, but
Like,
also like
it also
that
did paint
makes
a
perfect
picture. Yep,
sense.
yep, I got you.
I chuckled, but I understand. Yeah, so I definitely like chuckled several
Hmm.
times
Yeah, I agree.
while reading, which is hard to do.
Hmm.
And I feel like this was like an actual rom-com. Like even though like it does obviously deal with like some serious topics, like particularly like the parental relationships, I think are could like be considered on the more serious side. But I feel
Hmm.
like this was actually like a rom-com.
I feel like romance might be a genre that's like particular about its definition in ways that other genres might not be.
I think yes. I think that's partially, well, I think one, because I think a lot of romance readers, like one of the reasons I like reading romance is because I know it's going to be a happy ending. I don't want a sad ending. Like I know I like the guarantee. I like the no, like I can still be, I can know the ending and still like be in suspense and be like, how is this going to
How is it going to
resolve?
resolve? Yeah, yeah. At
While being like, okay, I know that I'm
the end of
safe.
the day, like,
Like the suffering will be worth it. Allegedly, sometimes it's not even worth it. But I also think it's because romance, like the genre conventions get challenged a lot more than other genres.
mm,
Like every year, like it's basically like a meme at this point in the romance community where like every year, like there's an influx of articles in February, like for Valentine's Day, about like, does romance really need a happy ending? Like it can still be a romance, even if like they die at the end or like they don't end up in a relationship at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's never like I've never seen an article that's like, do mystery novels really need to have a mystery? Does like crime need to happen in detective novels? Does it?
Like,
It can
yes.
still be a mystery novel, even if you don't have to guess anything.
Right.
Like, I've never seen that. Or like,
Right.
it can still be a sci-fi, even if there's no technology or aliens or whatever.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I hear you. Yeah. It's like defined by like some, well, two specific things.
Yeah. It's very like there's very broad. Like you could do whatever the fuck you want, and people do. All right, shall we do the cat scale?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts as pertaining to that?
Well, I didn't know what the cat scale was until you texted me a week ago.
Uh-huh.
And then I don't think I noticed like anything in the book
Hmm.
that had to do with cats.
Did you get
Certainly
any
not
cat vibes from any of the characters?
like maybe what's her name? Priya,
Mm.
the person who was driving them around because
Hmm.
she was like
The one with the truck.
she was like a little
That's the lesbian
snarky.
with the truck. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, like Priya's a cat. You know. So I feel like I would lean very low on the cat scale.
Yeah. The
What do you
only the only like cat language that I caught was when I don't know whether it's the first time they have sex. I think it may be the first time they have sex. Oliver is quote crawling across the bed like a tiger who'd been to Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh, okay.
So there's
That's
that.
that's definitely cat.
And I don't know what it is about. This is a common, I mean, this was kind of part of the reason like that the cat scale was born because I like specifically during sex scenes having someone crawling or prowling like a insert large cat
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Like it is such prevalent imagery across the board.
I see that. Or like, yeah, I could imagine that.
And I'm like, I get it, but it's just funny because I just feel like it's not something that like people just use because like they see other people using it. Like I feel like a lot it's kind of like spontaneous. Like many different people have like thought of this imagery
Dependent,
to use.
parallel. That's funny. It is like it does invoke a certain image that I feel like is probably illustrative of what they're trying to communicate. Okay. Well, I feel that's a pretty big reference.
But it's only the one. It's the
Only
one,
the
and it's
one.
kind of more of like a gag. Like I'm picturing like Tony the Tiger wearing Abercrombie and Fitch. That's what that's giving me.
So I don't know. Like is that like a one or like a two?
Well, one is like this was a romance. This was a book. No
Okay,
cat, 0% cat. This was a
got
book.
it. Okay. What's five?
It's like middle.
Okay, so is it like a three, and like a two or a three?
Yeah. Well, what do you think? We both each give a number, and then it's just the average.
I guess I would say a two.
I would say a four.
Oh, okay.
Mhm. Okay. So a three.
So a three.
This has been lovely.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming. Did you have anything that you would like to plug?
I did give this like 10 seconds of thought when I was listening to Katie's episode also.
Katie plugged local karaoke,
I
so
know, I know. I'm very aware. I heard all about it. I hear her plugging this all the time. I feel like I should plug something. I don't know why
you
I
don't
kept
have
thinking about
to.
like the color purple. I'm like, let's plug the color
The
purple.
color purple.
The color purple.
Do you want anyone to follow you on Goodreads? We spent a time talking about Goodreads.
I don't think so. I have 83 friends, but that's where I draw the line.
Next time someone tries to friend you, you're like someone else is gonna have to
And I'll have
go.
to go
Like
out,
it's
which is
the
fine.
cap. It's a
That's
cap
yeah,
at
83 is a
83.
cap. It's a hard cap.
So just to specify, like just the color purple, not the book slash musical slash movie.
Yeah, to be clear, yes, the color, literally the color,
The Roy
the
Jeebus.
the hue.
Yes. Well, listener, you can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at We Read It One Night, on Twitter at We Read It Podcast. You can email us, rereaditonenight@gmail.com. And you can check out our Etsy shop, Evelyn and Adelaide. And all of that is linked in the description of this episode. Godspeed, comrades.
Oh, Godspeed. Godspeed.
Wow, you got it without me needing to tell you.
I told you I listened to Katie's episode. I was all prepped. I'm a true fan.